Okay, very good. We're gonna go ahead and get started as people are coming in. But if you're just joining in, you kind of get the idea of what's going on in the chat. I'd like to know where you're from and whether spring has arrived, and we're gonna move it. We're gonna move ahead from there. This is our ninth session. Thank you for joining us. We know that very often in these meetings, this is the first time you've been with us. But Klaus and I started this newbie group actually a year ago. We had like 7 meetings last year, and this is our second meeting this year. So this is our ninth meeting, and we thank you. We thank you for being here with us. Let's move ahead to the next slide. Okay, very good. We got a couple of things you need to know. Well, first of all, you obviously already know that your video is turned off and your audio is turned off. And we do that because we expect a lot of people here today. We're probably going to have 400 or 500 people live on this call. But we want you to participate. We encourage your participation. We'd like you to use the chat to talk among yourselves. But if you have a question and you have a question about the presentation, please put it in the Q&A. Now, you can see this group of people who are out here. They monitor the chat and they monitor the Q&A. And if you have a question, we're going to try to answer that question for you and get you an answer for that question. If we can't answer the question, we're going to save a question for the speakers at the end of their presentation. We'll try to get you an answer for all of them. But if you want to chat among yourselves, that's fine. But please do it in the chat, because the chat moves very quickly and it's kind of hard to keep up with. Okay, can we move to the next slide also? Okay, this group is all about you. I mentioned before, this is our ninth meeting. We started this group about a year ago, and it's for people who are relatively new to Tableau. I mean, you could be, like within a year, maybe you got some experience and you want to enhance your skills. But we need to know along the way what topics are of interest to you and what you want to hear about. So you can drop those topic ideas into the chat also, and we're going to capture those. As I mentioned before, the topic for today and what we're talking about, Tableau Server and Tableau Cloud, and that's a topic that came directly out of the chat. Users were saying, hey, you guys are talking about all this stuff and it's desktop, and that's great, and we love to hear it. But we need to hear about server and we need to hear about cloud also. So today you get your wish. We meet every 6 to 8 weeks. So that works out to about 8 meetings a year, and that's going to work out well. There's 2 parts to the meeting, and Klaus and I take on a topic about, how does that work? We're going to take on a topic in Tableau and talk not just the mechanics of how you use it, but what does it do and how does it work? We learned last year that people wanted to see use cases, so we're going to focus a lot on use cases this year. And then we have a guest speaker from the community, or today we actually have 2 guest speakers who are going to join us. And as we said, they're going to talk about server and they're going to talk about cloud. So moving right along. Okay, just a quick agenda here. We're going to, once we finish these introductions, we're going to have a very special presentation. You're going to hear me say this about 3 or 4 times today. We're going to talk about Tableau is moving a platform that is used to send out all these invitations and set up all these meetings. We were on a platform called Splash, and we're moving away from that platform, and we're going to move to a platform called Bevy. And Reyes and Laura have done just a great job on this, and they're going to spend time and they're going to talk to you about it. And they're going to tell you how you have to sign up for Bevy and how you have to get on Bevy. And what's going to happen is this is going to be the last meeting that's on Splash. The next meeting's on Bevy, and we don't want to lose you. And you have to sign up on Bevy, or we're going to lose contact with you. So that's going to be a very, very important presentation. And then Klaus and I are going to talk about measure names and measure values. And we're all Tableau users. We know where they happen out on every time you set up a new viz. But what do they really do? And how do they work? And we're going to talk about that today. And then Brandy and Patrick are going to talk about maximizing server and cloud for users that are at our current level. And I'll tell you what, I plan to pay a lot of attention because I don't know anything about server or cloud, so I plan to learn a lot from that. Then we're going to have a Kahoots quiz, hopefully. We're going to have a Kahoots quiz, and Patrick and Brandy are donating a prize. We're going to give away a copy of the book. So we're looking forward to that. Let's move ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Quick roadmap where we are in the year and where we're going. This is our second meeting of the year. It's the 3rd of I'm sorry, it's the 9th of March. We get that European date format. It's the 9th of March. Today we're going to go over measure names and measure values. And as I mentioned before, we're also going to be talking about server and cloud. The next meeting will be April the 20th. And at that meeting, we're going to talk about period calculations. We're going to talk about things like year to date, year over year analysis, and how you do those sorts of analysis. And at that meeting, our special guest is going to be Simon Beaumont. And Simon is just a great guy. And he is going to talk about Center of Excellence. And it's that's a meeting that you're definitely going to want to attend. Then we're going to have a meeting on June the 8th. And in between those two meetings is TC23. And I hope you all are planning on coming out to TC23. We hope to see you out there. And if you're out there, stop by and see us. Klaus is going to be there. I'm going to be there. And if you see us, stop by. We'd love to meet you, love to talk to you, get to know you a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Jim, one thing, I think this is the only date format that makes sense, isn't it? 2023 and then the month and then the day. I mean, that's how we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only me who gets confused. I got confused last night. I was telling, I had another user group last night. I had the Nashville user group last night. I had those people very confused on dates, but we're back at it now. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Chat is liking the chat you guys are having about how to write the dates. But yeah,
okay, good.
Yeah.
Chat's going a little crazy on that, huh?
Just a few comments. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next slide.
Let's go on to the next slide because I'm going to get beat up on this. I can see this. Let's say I know a lot of you don't know who we are, so we're going to just introduce ourselves real quick here. You want to pull up the map?
Yeah, sorry, let me pull up so you're meeting the team. Okay.
Okay, this is who we are and where we're located. I'm Jim Dehner. I just by way of introduction, I'm one of the Tableau visionaries. I may know some of you from the forum. I've spent a lot of time on the forum, and I live in Nashville. I didn't see Horace out there this morning, so let's go over to Viraj. And Viraj, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. This is Viraj. I'm from Mumbai, India. And as you see on this side, I'm Tableau at heart, newbie at heart. So always learning, always, eager to share and learn. And it's great to be part of this group. Looking forward for many more sessions. Yep.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Klaus. I'm teaching management accounting at Münster University of Applied Sciences in Germany. And I've been using Tableau since 2017, I think. I'm also one of the visionaries, and I'm really happy and glad to be a part of this group. It has been so much fun so far to do these meetings together with all the newbies out there. And I'm also looking forward to many more meetings. Laura, do you want to go next?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm Laura, and I think I mentioned before that I was from Chicago. So the weather is not exactly nice here, but I work in a law firm and I use Tableau in order to analyze our finance data and other performance metrics. So it's a pretty niche use of data, but I think Tableau has been working very well for us so far, and we've made so many new discoveries and so many new ways of looking at data just because we're a law firm. So it's been super helpful. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
I haven't seen needed yet. So Reyes, you want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Reyes. I'm from Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm a bioinformatician by training, and I work in the pharmaceutical industry. So I actually use Tableau Server and Cloud a lot. Really excited to hear what our guest speakers have to say about that. And, being a part of this group, I'm just always excited to constantly learn new things. And it seems like every session I'm picking up these gold nuggets each and every time. So looking forward to today's session.
Reyes, Maria just put in something there about Fat Tire Brewery.
Oh yeah, New Belgium. That's one of the big breweries. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. New Belgium Brewery, one of the original breweries here in Fort Collins, huge, and the Fat Tire Bike Festival is a fantastic event if anyone ever gets a chance to partake.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic.
So
Okay. Now
Yeah.
this is what we're going to talk about the transition to Bevy, and it's real important to pay attention here. We are going to be dropping links into the chat that are going to get you out to sign up for Bevy and do what needs to be done. I want you to notice here that Reyes and Laura put these slides together. They've also described themselves as tug coordinators extraordinaire. That's an understatement. With all of the people that work on this, they work so hard, you just can't believe how hard they work to bring this to you. And I can tell you from my own personal lack of skill with technology, these guys are saving the day. So, and particularly Viraj also, all three of them together are doing just a great job. So, Graves, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to stop talking and let you go on this one.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Jim. And I appreciate that. I agree, without the team, we really couldn't do what we do here. But as Jim indicated earlier, we're going to be moving away from the Splash platform, which was a previous platform we used to manage virtual events. And we're going to be going forward with Bevy. And Bevy is a community events platform that is used by Salesforce aka Tableau. So all of Tableau is switching over to this. So if you're part of other user groups, those user groups will also be going to Bevy. And high level overview, really it's all about customer experience. The customer experience should be much better here. Everything's going to be hosted on Bevy, so we don't have to hop on Zoom calls anymore. We'll just go straight to Bevy. Zoom calls, chat, emails, everything's going to be coming from this one location. So overall user experience should be much better. If not, please reach out to us.
oh my God,
As
sorry.
we said, yep, just go back a couple.
Sorry about that. Okay.
No problem. Yeah, next slide. But as we said, as going forward, we are going to have to have everyone create a new account with Bevy. And that's kind of what we show here. Laura's going to do a demo of that shortly. After you create an account, next slide, please go to the Explore by Groups and look for your user group. So the Tableau Newbies user group is going to be found underneath Product. And you'll see kind of highlighted right here, where front and center. But also be sure to look and check out for other user groups that you're interested in, that you would like to join. As Jim said, local user groups are fantastic and a great way to find the local Tableau community. So I would definitely look for a local user group in your community. And with that, I'll hand it off to Laura so she could do a live demo of signing up for Bevy.
So, hi. So this is what the Bevy page for Tableau overall looks like. And let me move over to that. So this is what the page looks like. Okay. And why I'm going to click on, you can either click on login or join a user group. So I'm going to click on join a user group. So then that thing comes up. So I will type in my name, my last name, I don't know, analyst, I guess, and my email. Okay, and then company name, and then country. Okay, hopefully this will let me sign up. If it doesn't let me sign up, I'll have to do something, guys. Okay, so I'll just save this. But so now I'm actually in the user group. So I have an account, and for example, you want to join Newbie. So I will click on, let me see. I will click on join a group. And you will see all this. This is the page that Ray's mentioned. So you are gonna go to, he mentioned product, and you will see Tableau Newbies user group right here, and you'll click on here. And once it loads, and we have the event set up for April here. So you can click on here, view all the details. And if you would like to join, you can, this person hasn't now joined yet. So I'm gonna click on join. So now, like Laura Matthews again, once again, part of this user group. So that's where we are. So that's all you have to do, and everything will be hosted on Bevy. if you have any questions, please feel to ask it in the Q&A, and we will be sending out some follow-up emails to confirm and have some more information about Bevy. So that's it. Thank you.
Now, just a couple of things by our own experience. You're going to sign up and you're going to get a notice there that says you successfully signed up. You will get an email back from Bevy, but it takes about 30 minutes. I expected to have an email come back immediately, say, oh, congratulations, you've signed up for the group. It takes about 30 minutes for you to get signed up properly, and you'll get an email back from it. We can't tell you how important this is. If you can imagine Splash being out there, this platform we used, all our mailing list and all your contact information, which, by the way, we don't see. We don't get to see your detailed contact information, but all your contact information is sitting out here on Splash, and we're migrating over to this new platform, and that contact information is not coming with it. The mailing lists are not coming with it. So the only way we know who you are and where you are is if you sign up for Bevy. It's just extremely important. And I realize it looks like, oh, geez, I'm signing up for something new and I'm signing up for something different. Is this some sort of fishing expedition or just whatever? No, it's very real, and it's very important that you do sign up for it so that that we've got you on the list. Reyes made a point before. You need to sign up for each one of your user groups independently. I'm in 4 different user groups. So and once you sign up and once you're out there as a person, all you have to do to get on the next user group is just identify that group and ask to be a member of the group, but you have to sign up for them individually. You don't automatically get signed up for all the user groups that you're in. Guys, thank you for doing that. This great. It really covered off the presentation. I was looking in the chat. I saw the information going in the chat. We're gonna do a check later to see how many people we've added, because we can look and see how many people we had at the beginning of the day and how many people we had at the end of the day. And that's how Laura and Reyes get paid, just by the way. They get paid by person. So we just move on from that.
Yeah. So
Wait,
basically,
we get paid. I missed that.
Oh my God, we get paid. We get paid a lot. But yeah, this is what you mentioned just about joining other groups. So I'm in the analytics Tableau user group. So if you want to join another group, you have to click on join, and then you'll get an email to just to welcome you to the user group. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
I think we're ready to move ahead now.
Okay.
Okay. Now Klaus and I are going to talk about measure names and measure values. And why don't we just jump right into it, Klaus? So
yeah. So how does it work? Like Jim mentioned, we are looking into some basic concepts that you might wonder about when you just started using Tableau. And measure names and measure values is maybe something you notice in the data pane already, but maybe you haven't really understood yet what it is about. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We will introduce that topic to you and then show you a demo of how you can use measure values and measure names and how you can create visualizations using these fields. So first of all,
go ahead.
First of all, you don't have to do anything to get measure names and measure values. When you connect to a data source, you will see your data in the data pane, and measure names and measure values, like some other fields that get created automatically, will show up in the data pane. And when you use measure values, you will also see the measure value card, like you see here on the bottom right. Measure values is a field that contains the values of all measures in the data set. So you might know about Superstore, about the data set. So there is a sales variable, there is profit, there is discount, there is quantity, and measure values is a field that contains all the values of these measures.
I just want to make one point here, Klaus.
Includes the measure
view that
names.
we're looking at is the current view of the data frame, and sometimes measure values is hard to see, and measure names are hard to see because you might have Klaus has three tables open up there, but you might have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to find measure values, and sometimes it gets lost down there. But you have, and if you have to scroll for it, you have to scroll for it. But they are both in there, and they are each in there just once. So I'm sorry, Klaus. Go ahead.
Yeah, good addition. And yeah, measure names is like a dimension. You can do most of the things you can do with other dimensions as well, like, for example, edit aliases or sort the measures that you are using with measure names. So that's measure names. Yeah, like I said, measure names, measure values are in most respects like any other fields in Tableau, and our demo will be about most of this, how we can, for example, use measure names to filter on the KPIs or on the metrics. You can format measure values, so that would actually format all the measures that fall under measure values at the same time. We can use measure values and measure names on shelves, on the marks cards, assign aliases, and do all the stuff that some of the things I already mentioned. And we can also use them in visualizations. It's not always pretty straightforward to use them, and it's a little bit depending also on the data structure you have. If you have to use them, but we will show you some examples for this in a minute. You can also use measure names with parameter actions. So that will be a great use case that we will show also later. But, and there's a big but, you cannot use measure names and measure values in calculated fields. So that's one of the shortcomings with measure names and measure values. There is no way, for example, doing a case statement based on measure values, on measure names, sorry, or to do mathematical operations with measure values. So that's just not possible. When talking about measure values and measure names, we also have to talk about pivoting data. And we haven't covered that topic yet. Just to give an idea. So what is a pivot? A pivot will restructure your data. And it will transform a wide table to a long table by flipping certain columns into rows. And this is what you see here on the left side. I'm connected to Superstore, and you see there is sales, there is quantity, there is discount, and there is profit. And once we are using measure names and measure values with such a data set, we will do exactly what I just explained. We have measure names showing the names of these 4 columns, like sales, quantity, discount, and profit. And we will have measure values that will show the values of these measures. Once we pivot that data, and you see it on the right side, then we will get a dimension. I've accidentally or incidentally called it measure name here as well, that has now a row with all the labels of the measures, and we have a column for measure values with all the values in it. So this is a pivot, but measure names of measure values kind of do the same. So whenever you are able to pivot your data and your metrics are kind of similar, I think I would recommend to pivot your data. And if you're not able to do that, you can also do certain things with measure names and measure values, and that is what we will show you right now in our demo. And then we will
just really quick here, that view that you were just looking at, everybody, that happens to be from Tableau Prep.
Yeah.
So, if you're not familiar with Prep and you're saying, well, where do I go to get that? Or, what does that look like? That's from Tableau Prep. Okay. Let's move ahead, Klaus.
Yeah, and let's move over to Tableau Desktop and see what we can do with measure names and measure values. So first thing, how can we use measure names and measure values in the view? There are different ways to bring that in, and the easiest one maybe is to just drag and drop it from the data pane into your visualization. You're seeing right now, I've put measure names on columns, and I take measure values and put that on text. And like that, we see all the measures in our data set, that is discount, profit, ratio, quantity, sales. And there's another one, selected metric. I will use that in one of my next examples, so don't care about that too much. You also see the measure values card here, and we can just take metrics out here or bring them in again if you want to. Yeah, so that would be the first way of doing that. Then
if you notice when Klaus did that, it created a filter. It automatically, he'll create it again. It automatically creates a filter, and you can use that as a drop-down filter and control what's being shown in the same way.
Yeah. Okay, let me show that. So we can just select from the filter the metrics we want to show. Another way to do that is with just a double click. So for example, if we were looking at subcategories for different years and want to see the sales, then this would create, first of all, just one metric, the sales here in the view. And if we want to see the profit in addition, we can just do a double click, and you will see that measure names has been added to the filter shelf here, and also to rows. And in this case, profit and sales are shown on rows. We could also do, oh, wait a second. We could also do that on columns, and we would see profit and sales next to each other. Next way of doing it would be with to create a combined axis. So for example, if we wanted to, let's do something with a date. Let's say we're looking at, I don't know, quarterly sales like this. And now you might want to see the profit in addition on that same axis. And you can do that by bringing the measure directly to the axis here. Oh no, sorry, to that axis. And when you drop it, it will automatically add measure values and measure names, and it will put measure names on color to being able to differentiate between sales and profit in this case. Yeah, and the fourth way of doing it is to use show me for example, any side-by-side visualization. For example, if we want to look at category and years, or just category and sales and profit in a bar chart, you can use show me to create that view, and you will see that Tableau will automatically use measure names and measure values. Again, we have measure names on filter, if we, for example, wanted to see quantity as well. And we have the measure values card here at the bottom left. Yeah, so that's how you use them. Then the second thing, we talked about pivoting. So pivoting also does something similar. And just to show you how that would work, so if you have control over the data source, you can pivot your data. In this case, I select my 4 columns and do a pivot. And this will create 2 new columns, the pivot field names and pivot field values. And this would actually do the same like measure names and measure values. So if I put that on text again, we see pretty much the same like we saw when using measure names and measure values. Okay, now some cool things you can do with measure names and measure values. So my typical use case is to create tables with measure names and measure values. And what we could do, for example, is to edit aliases. So I'm having, for example, an average discount here in the view. And I don't want to have that as the average discount, but maybe as a discount, and put that average in brackets after that, for example. Yeah, so it can be any alias you want to have. Also, we can use measure values on color to create a nice heat map. I have to change this to square. And you see already that I have different, I have just one color legend here at the right. And the good thing we can do with measure values is that we can have separate legends. If I select that option, you will see that each of my columns will have an individual color legend. Yeah, and we can, of course, edit these colors and, for example, have some, I don't know, red color for sales, just to have distinct color legends for each of the metric. Yeah, so that is
Klaus, this is what you just did is one of the most frequently asked questions we get on the forum about formatting. They want to format individual measures individually and separately, and it's how do I do it? And now all of you know the secret. You know how to do it.
Yeah, one of my favorite features as well when working with measure names and measure values. Okay, good. Now let's do some charts. A line chart, I already did that, so maybe we can skip that. The side-by-side visual, for example, a bar chart. We did that with Show Me earlier, but maybe let's do that from scratch again. For example, if we were looking at category and we like to see sales maybe and profit side by side, then we can do again this one. So building a combined axis, putting measure names on color maybe. Yeah, just to have these side by side visualizations. We could change the mark to circle to have dot plots and put in another dimension on color, for example. I don't know, maybe the years, and like that you can create these visualizations with measure names and measure values. Another neat thing to do with measure names and measure values is a rounded bar chart. Jim, I don't know if you have created one, but what you could do is something like that. So we have just a normal bar chart. Let's sort that one. And what we could do is to add a value, a measure with 0, and dragging that 0 to this same axis. And this will again create measure values and measure names. And we can then switch it to a line and set measure names on path, and we get nice rounded bars, yeah, like that. Yeah, we could do something on color, for example, and this is a neat way of doing a bar chart a little bit different. Okay, good. Now let's move on to the next one. Sometimes we have a data structure that just makes it necessary to use measure names and measure values. And in this case, I'm connected here to a data set where we have, for some reason, one column for each quarter of the year. So we are looking at 2022 sales, and there's one column for quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we would recommend here is to pivot the data. Now, for some reason, we are not able to pivot that data. And to do certain things, we have to use measure names and measure values. And first thing we want to do is to create a pie chart with measure names and measure values. So let's see how that works. So we are using the pie mark, and we want to see the measure names on detail and the measure values on the angle. Let's put this on color. And now we have all the values here. So let's change that filter. I take out the budget and the total sales, and this will result in a nice pie chart. Yeah, pretty much the same can be done for a tree map. Also, visualizing part to whole. We need the square mark for a tree map. Now let's do the measure values on size. Take out the budget and the total sales again. And for example, drag on subcategories as well and bring in some color. And like this, we can create a tree map with measure names and measure values.
Klaus showed me this the other day. I'd never seen this done before. So I don't know how many of you have tried this or have tried to use this, but it's a great way of very quickly making pie charts, or as Klaus described them, part to whole type diagrams, tree maps, and that sort of thing. I'd never seen it done this way before. Well done.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Jim. And we're almost through. And now I want to show you the disadvantage of such a data structure. So, for example, let's do a stacked bar chart. We're doing that again with measure names and measure values, drag out the fields we don't need, maybe sort that a little bit. And in this case, we have a stacked bar chart having our 4 quarters stacked on top of each other. And something you would typically do maybe or want to do with a stacked bar chart is to show the percentage of total. And if we had a pivoted data structure, we could just add a table calculation to see the percentage of total. What we needed to do here is to calculate the total sales first, which is just the sum of the 4 quarters. And then to create that view percentage of total, we would have to add that to every of our measures in the view. It takes a second to do. And like that, we get, let's put that on color, we get a percentage of total stacked bar chart. Yeah, so not the best way of doing it, but also possible with measure names and measure values.
For some of the newbies, you may not have run into this, but sometimes you have a data source that you can't pivot. You've brought in some data and Tableau's not going to allow, it's actually not Tableau, it's the data source is not going to allow you to pivot the data. And this is a way to get that same sort of result. Yes, it takes a little more work, but you can get the same sort of result by using this approach.
Yeah, or if you're connected to a published data source, for example,
Yes.
on your server, you cannot pivot that one. Okay, then one thing, we can do combination charts as well. So let's do this one again, the stacked bars, to show the sales of the year. And you might want to compare that with a budget. Yeah, and I have a budget here. And now you could do, for example, you could just leave this as bars and create a Gantt chart here for the budget. And then, yeah, do a dual axis and synchronize the axes like this. And then you could compare the budget to your actual data. You could use, or you could add some color to show where we are below or above budget, just like that. So combination chart doing a dual axis could be created from any measure, but also with measure values like in this case. Okay, and then the last thing we wanted to show today is that you can use measure names, or let me start differently. We cannot use measure names and measure values in calculations, like I just said. But we can use measure names with parameter actions, and that lets you do something like this. For example, Imagine you have your dashboard with some KPIs like you see here and like we talked about last time. And here you have a breakdown of these metrics by year. And I've implemented a parameter action. And the parameter action is writing the measure name, that is this field, to a parameter whenever I click on one of the big numbers here. Yeah, and you see that parameter here. So when I click at profit, you will see it change to profit. When I click at sales, you see it change to sales. And we can, like this, look into the different KPIs and break them down to years. And how do you do that? You can create a metric or measure based on this parameter. And I'm saying when my parameter measure name equals profit, then I want to see profit. When it equals sales, then I want to see sales. And when it's quantity, I want to see quantity. Yeah, and just like that, you can create a nice way of looking into different KPIs with just one view. Okay, I guess there might be some questions around this topic in the chat, in the Q&A, and I might jump right into them now and hand it back over to you, Jim.
Okay. Okay, I do see quite a few questions out there, Klaus. You have to remember that Klaus is an Iron Viz winner. You know, it's not like he just started this yesterday. So, like with everything that you do with Tableau, practice it, work at it. And yes, the questions come up several times. Has this been recorded? Yes, it has been recorded, and you'll be able to download it, and you'll be able to stop it and start it, and everything else.
Yeah, I will upload the workbook on Tableau Public, so you can download and reverse engineer everything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think time-wise, we're ready to move on. If everybody's set to go.
Yep. Oh, we need that first slide. Wait a second.
Yeah. Okay. Klaus and I are very good at Tableau when it comes to mechanics of using slides and interacting with Google and the like. Klaus is good. I'm not necessarily. Okay. Now we come to what you have requested, what you, the users, have requested, and that's a presentation on getting the most out of server and cloud. Okay, for us typical average users. And I think I said before, I'm a desktop user. I avoid questions on cloud like you can't imagine. I just avoid that. So I'm going to learn an awful lot today. Our speakers today, and we can go to the next slide here, are Brandy Locker and Pat Sarsfield. Just brief introduction. Very, very experienced people. Brandy's been using Tableau for 7 years, and she's with, I'm going to say this wrong, Brandy, so you can correct me later, Cirrus, and she's been with them for 7 years. And Pat is with a small company called Cisco. You may have heard of them. And Brandy's out of Texas, and Patrick's out in the DC area. But they've written a book, and it is the beginner's guide to access and sharing management content through Tableau Server. A beginner's guide to accessing and sharing and managing content on Tableau Server. And they're going to talk about the content that's in that book. And I think Patrick is going to lead off on the presentation, if I'm not mistaken. And if you're ready, Patrick.
If you don't mind, can I take the reins?
You can share your screen.
All right.
You should be able to.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen here?
We can see it.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, this is the book. You're right. Brandon actually did work together for a few years at a Fortune 100 company, an insurance company. And that's how we met each other, even though we don't live in the same state. That's where we got the idea. Kind of like, it's so exciting because I wasn't sure who suggested this. So it's amazing that the community were the people that suggested that this would be something, because was our initial belief, was that a lot of people, and I'll go here because you already talked about us. We can just go right to why you'd want to learn about Tableau Server, Tableau Cloud. In our experience, I mean, we both started off as developers, but we were sharing reports with all these people, hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of different users. And for the majority of them, that was their first introduction to Tableau. It was receiving a URL or seeing it on a meeting, and they look at this thing like, what is this? What am I looking at here? How do I use this? How do I gain access to it? And so it's really the first introduction to like data visualization or data analytics. And certainly for many people who I've worked with that operate largely in Excel, it's really the first time they've seen real report automation. They've heard about it, but they haven't really, they're still running their weekly or monthly reports over and over again in Excel. And so being able to realize that you can take this and automate it and set and forget it, maybe check it on every quarter. So to make sure things are running okay and addressing the issues, it makes your life so much easier. So some of the things that we'll go over here in kind of a tips and tricks session, we'll probably try to hit about 40 or 50 tips or tricks, little things here, depending on the time. We'll go over things like how to better manage content, your own and other content on Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server, and we will use those interchangeably here. I think everything but one item I'll talk about, and Brandy as well, will relate to both Tableau Server and Tableau Cloud, formerly known as Tableau Online. So don't get caught up if you're like, wait, he's talking about server, but I'm on cloud. Everything here, at least for this presentation, should be applicable to both. Except for one thing, and I'll call it out as I talk about it. So again, don't worry if you only have one or the other. I actually have both, like John said, like Jim said, I work for a small company, so they can afford to buy both cloud and server, which is the first time I've ever encountered that. But what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to manage content, automate tasks, and ultimately, hopefully, ideally increase user engagement, which is a good way to secure long-term employment, as long as people are using the things that you build and can't get away from them. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brandy. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through basically from a beginner developer finishing up their first dashboard to then what you do next. And that'll kind of lead from there. If you're not a developer, you're just like an analyst, the next step will lead into, okay, now you're an analyst. Here's the first time you've seen a Tableau dashboard that has been sent to you. What can you do from there? So hopefully wherever you fall, something here will apply to you. And don't even try to, you probably know a lot of this already because a lot of this is intuitive, but if you can draw out 2, 3, 4 items here that help you and you can start using right away, that's kind of our goal. So I don't think we probably won't, we'll probably show a lot of things that you're like, yeah, I already knew that. But if there's 3 or 4 things you're like, ooh, I can use that right away and that'll make a big difference. That's kind of my hope here. So Brandy, I'll let you take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you, Pat. So just quickly before we get started here, just in case anyone's wondering the difference between server and cloud, it's just all a matter of more of the back-end hosting. So with server, your company is hosting that on-prem, and with cloud, that's hosted by Tableau, so they handle the upgrades and everything for you. But for all intents and purposes for our uses, we're dealing with the same thing. So like Pat said, you don't have to worry about it if you're on cloud, but we keep saying server. So this is desktop. This is where we build out our visualizations and everything. If we've got a creator license, if you're using an Explorer license, you're probably already using the web edit, the web authoring feature that comes with server and cloud. But if you're using desktop, the first thing you want to do, you've built out your dashboard and now you're like, okay, what do I do next? So the next step is publishing so you can share it with your users. So you'll go up to the server menu at the very top, and first you need to sign in to your server. This process might vary a little bit depending on if you're using server or cloud. You see a little blue link in the bottom left of this dialog window, and that's where you'd sign in with your cloud credentials. But if you're using server, you probably have a server URL here. Your admin can provide that information for you. And once you get connected, then we can get published. So we'll give Pat a chance to get connected to his server here.
There we go. If this takes too long, what I can do is I can just open it up in, nope, I'm in, hang on. Security procedures, hang on one moment.
No worries.
Okay. There we go. I should be good now. All right.
All right. So once you've signed in, it'll look the same in desktop, but now you can see that you've signed in. So once you can validate that, you'll see your credentials up there. The next step is going to the Publish Workbook menu. So we'll click on that. Once this window pops up, you'll see a few different options to configure. So the first question is project. This is just where it's stored on your server. So they call it projects. It's really, it's like a folder. So it's just where you're storing it. And so you can go ahead and select whatever project suits your needs. Next step is giving it a name. So this is how it will appear on the server. So once you're looking for that content, this is the keyword that they'll be looking for. So we'll give it a useful name. If you've already published your dashboard and you've made some changes and now you want to republish it, you might get a little red error that would say, you're about to overwrite existing content. Are you sure you want to proceed? That's just warning you that there's already workbook like that on the server. So it's just confirming if you want to make a copy or if you want to go ahead and overwrite your previous version. Next is an optional place for you to add a description. You can add things like tags. We talk about that in the book. I don't know if we'll have time to get to that today in this chat. But then a little bit lower in that kind of second half of the window, you'll see a place for sheets. This is where you can publish all of your worksheets and dashboards that you've configured in Tableau Desktop, or you can choose to only publish the dashboards or only publish certain ones. So this is just going to be what appears to the users when it's published to the server or the cloud. And then below that, you'll have an option to choose a refresh schedule. This will be a little bit different. So if you're using server, your admins will have configured options for you. If you're using cloud, they have out of the box options that Tableau is configured. So this is where you can choose the frequency of the data refresh. And then below that is a section for permissions. So this controls who has access to your workbook. So you can add people individually, but we always recommend using groups. So your server or your cloud instance will have groups configured most likely of, so say, we've got Pat's team here. So these are the people on Pat's team that would need to have access to this workbook. And that way, if you've got 50 workbooks and you've added people manually, it's going to be really hard to manage that going forward. So you want to use a group at all, almost at all times. That way, when someone leaves your team or your department or whatever, you can just remove them from the group and it takes their access away for all of the dashboards that are relevant to only your group. So we'll go ahead and select Pat's team there. Showing sheets as tabs just applies if you have multiple dashboards or worksheets in your workbook. And then you'll see the effect of that once we get published here. And we'll go ahead and leave our data sources. More often than not, you're going to be embedding your data sources in the workbook unless you're connecting to a published data source already. But more often than not, the defaults are pretty okay there. And then you'll just select publish. You do have the workbook optimizer button that Pat was just demoing. That just kind of gives you a quick, it assesses your workbook to see if there's any improvements you might want to make to improve that performance. We'll give it a couple of minutes to publish to server, a couple of seconds really, which is great. So once it publishes, you'll see that open in your browser. It'll appear in either a new window or a tab. And then you can just click out of that publish complete pop-up that appears. And then now that we've published it to the server, you can go ahead and open that workbook or the dashboard actually. So this is a dashboard that Pat's created to help us kind of configure the, it's on Tableau Public, it's great, helps you figure out different date calculations, which are always a lot of fun. But what we can do with this is first we'll look at custom views. So you'll see there's this blue bar at the top. I'll just kind of call that a top toolbar. And where Pat clicked on, where it says view original, and you'll get a window that pops up that says custom views. So a custom view is where, let's say you have a dashboard that maybe you work in I'm from Texas. So if I just only want to see Texas results, I'll filter that dashboard to Texas or maybe to a certain time frame here. Maybe we'll change that day comparison to it defaults to a current versus prior month. Maybe I'll change that to a current versus prior week. So we can configure our filters and save a custom view for ourselves. That way we don't have to reconfigure those filters every single time we open this workbook. So we'll configure our filters the way we want. We've selected current versus prior week. Now we'll select on that view and we'll save a custom view here. So we'll give it a name. And then there's two checkboxes below that. One says make it my default and the other says make visible to others. So make it my default just means that anytime I open this workbook or this dashboard in the future, this custom view will be what I see instead of the original view. So that can be a real time saver. So you don't have to, like I said, reconfigure those filters every time you open the dashboard. Making it visible to others just allows, as the name would imply, others to have access to that custom view. And then you can go ahead and save. Once it saves in that toolbar at the top, you should see the name of your custom view. So that's how I know I'm looking at the custom view we just created. If you want to reset it back to the original, you just click back in that view option up there at the toolbar, and you can click on original where it says other views right there. All right, so next up, we'll look over to the right side of that top toolbar. There's a, next to the data guide, there's a watch area. So if you click on that, you'll get a drop down, and there's the first option is subscriptions. So a subscription allows you to regularly configure the server or the cloud to automatically send either an image or a PDF or both of your dashboard to users. You can configure this for yourself or for others. So if you've created this for a certain management team, you can actually set them up to receive a weekly export of this dashboard. That way they don't have to actually go into the server, log in, do all those things and track it down. And for their filters, you can set up a subscription for them. So here's where you can assign, again, you can assign individual users or you can assign a group to this subscribe section. And you can also choose to subscribe yourself if you would like. And then below that, you have an option of what to include. So you want to include this view or this entire workbook. You can configure that there. Below that, you'll have a choice to, right, as Pat's showing, you can don't send it if the view is empty. So if maybe something goes wrong with your data source, you don't want to send just a blank screenshot, you can configure that. And then here's in the format dropdown is where you can choose whether you want to receive an image, a PDF, or both. I believe the image comes through as a JPEG, if I'm not mistaken.
That is
Subject.
acts as a hyperlink to the dashboard as well, which is important.
Yep, perfect. And subject is what will appear in the subject of the email. You can add an optional message and then choose the frequency of that subscription. Once you have everything figured, you can select subscribe and you should get a confirmation there at the top. And now we have our subscription created. Quick thing to note, one way you can kind of integrate this all together. So if you've created a custom view, you can subscribe to that custom view. And that way, again, it's just kind of automating all these little steps so you don't have to go do this every single time you log into server. Another quick thing to note is at the very top right, there's a share button. So if you click on this, this allows you to copy and paste either a link to this workbook, or you can actually directly share it through the server, the cloud instance, to users or groups. And then right there below the copy link section, there's also some copy embed code. Someone had asked earlier about embedding dashboards. That embed code allows you to do that. So the difference between subscriptions and sharing, subscriptions is an automated regular occurrence, whereas sharing is just kind of a one-off thing. So if you just need to quickly send someone a link, you can do that with the share button. The next thing we'll look at are metrics. So a metric is basically just Tableau generating a KPI for us. So it will be based off of an existing view just for at-a-glance analysis. It will be automatically refreshed with the data that's been provided in your dashboard. So you don't have to create a metric and then configure its own refresh. It's all handled for you, and it's all optimized for mobile and desktop. So to generate a KPI, you will click on a data point. So Pat's going to click on this current South region value. And now we see our KPI that appears. We see that 9,200 value. And then you can, in that pane on the right, you can configure the name of the metric, got a description. Any filters you've selected will apply to the metric. So it might be helpful to note your filter selections in that description. Pat, did you have a point?
Yeah, one thing that's cool about this is if you have a date dimension, we just switch over to a date dimension, you'll see that actually it provides a pretty robust, pretty cool looking big number up here. So not only does it include just the 9.2K that you saw before, it also shows the percentage change and gives you a little line graph, which is actually really, I mean, this is probably one of the coolest out of the box things. I mean, if you guys used Ask Data before, the visualizations that are created by it are a little disappointing. So I'm not in fear of my job from what it creates. But if Ask Data was creating visualizations that look like this metric here, I'd be a lot more worried, because it's very, very pretty, and it's created instantaneously. Anyway, that was my only point.
Yeah, so that's great. So we can go ahead and in the name section, we could give this a more useful name if we wanted something that our users might recognize from the server. We could offer an optional description, excuse me, and then configure a few points below, like if we want to add in some comparison values, what date range we want to configure, things like that. Change location allows you, it will automatically default to where your dashboard is currently stored. But if you want to store this metric in a different location, you can do that configuring that project. And once you've chosen everything the way you want it to be, you can select create down toward the bottom. And then once you've created it, you can actually see, go ahead and click that, Pat, the go to metric button will appear, and this will just give you an idea of what it looks like. So instead of having to jump into an entire dashboard, someone can just get that little thumbnail, or they can click into this to get the more detailed breakdown of that metric. So it's just a, like I said, just a quick out of the box KPI that Tableau generates for us. So this is useful. And you know, if you create a dashboard and maybe your executives just want to see all of the big hitting numbers, we can configure metrics for them. So that way we don't have to redesign something else. It'll just automatically be generated. So let's jump back into that dashboard.
You can even favorite it right here, right? Add it as
That's right.
your favorite, and then share that with others. And I can go right back to the dashboard this was created from by just clicking this connected view down here. So I'll go back to where we were and let you pick back up.
All right, perfect. And then if we want to see any metrics that have already been created, we can go back to that watch menu in that blue toolbar at the top, and we can choose metrics, and we can see what metrics already exist with that panel that appears on the right. From that same watch menu, you have one more option, and that is alerts. Alerts, as you might have guessed by the name, they will automatically from the server or the cloud send you an email and a notification of when a data reaches a defined threshold. So right now we've got no alerts on this view. If we want to create one, it gives us a little hint here. So it says select a numeric axis of a chart. So we'll click on the actual axis, not on the chart itself, but on the axis, and then we'll click create. And then now we're just going to pull that window to the side so you can see what's happening behind the scenes. It kind of comes up with some suggestions, but of course we can configure this how we like. The condition allows us to choose, do we want to be notified when this data reaches above or below a certain threshold? And then we can choose the actual value number to the right there. So maybe we want to say 20,000. And then the subject is just going to be what appears in that email alert. And then you can also choose the frequency. So if you don't want to be bombarded with a daily email, but maybe you want a weekly update, you can configure that here. And then you can choose recipients. You can sign the others up. You can sign yourself up, and you can choose whether or not to make that visible to others, meaning that someone else can come look in or look at this alert and subscribe to this alert themselves. Once that's created, it should appear in the right panel for us. And one thing that is important to know about alerts is that it does require the numeric axis on your chart to be shown. So sometimes whenever we're designing, we have a tendency to, maybe we show all the bar labels and then we hide the axis. If that happens, you will not be able to show an alert. So on this line graph, we were able to create alert, but the bar graphs on the right, they don't have an axis visible. So we would not be able to create an alert there. So that's just an important thing to keep in mind whenever you're building a dashboard. And like we mentioned, the alert will send you an email, but then also in the very top right, next to your icon or your initials, if you haven't created an icon, there's a bell top right. There you go. That is where your, as part of the server interface, that's where a notification would appear also. So you'll receive an alert in a couple of places. A couple more things before I hand this off to Pat. So if we close out that window here, and then at the very top, so we've been looking at this blue toolbar, but even above that, we see a few links that kind of map out where our dashboard is stored. We also see that little star. If we click on that star, we can mark this dashboard as a favorite, and Pat will show you how easy it is to find your favorites a little bit later. So you can add a favorite or remove a favorite by clicking on that star. To the left of that star, you can see, we call this just the hierarchy. So instead of having to, go back to your server URL and start over every time, you can use this hierarchy to kind of navigate through the projects. And so if you want to back up one level, you can click on, the workbook. If you want to back up to the default project or whatever project you store this in, you can click there. Sometimes you might run into, 5 or 6 layers of nested projects. And this way you quickly jump from one to the other without having to start over from the Explore page. And with that, I'll hand it over to Pat.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. That was great. So I'm just going to start here from the home page, and I'm just going to work my way down. That'll be pretty easy, I think. Now, I don't think we'll have time to go over everything here, so let's touch on as many of the the items here on the navigation pane that I can get to and that I think are pretty cool and kind of will be really useful, especially for a newbie group, which is really what the book was written for. I mean, I think it has beginner in the title, so I think this is the perfect audience for some of these items here. The first thing when I jump in, so when I was consulting for Lovelytics, when I would bounce around between different organizations or different companies, the first thing I want to know is what I'm working with. So I guess actually instead, I'll forget the navigation pane for a moment. Let me jump up here to the help menu right here. It's just a little question mark icon. If I select this and then go down to About Tableau, I can very quickly find out where I stand. And so this might be helpful for some of you who are looking at this and saying to yourself, oh, this doesn't look like my Tableau server or my Tableau Cloud. And that might be because, well, I think I'm on the newest version, 2022.3.4. So it may be that my version is different because I'm using a slightly newer version than you are. It's possible I'm using one version older, but I think this is the newest one. Another thing that's going on here as you look at the navigation pane is I have a lot more options here. And that's because I'm a Tableau Server site administrator. This is my own demonstration site. So some of the items here, especially down at the bottom, you may not see. And that's just because that would just indicate you're not a site admin. Something, but it's just a quick little thing here is that we're always fighting for space on Tableau Desktop. And I don't think it's all that different sometimes on Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server. So just being able to collapse a sidebar here and gain back space can be very helpful when you're looking at a lot of different content. I'm going to open it back up actually, because I think it'll be helpful to have these names displayed. These icons aren't super descriptive, especially if you haven't looked at them many times before. Another thing you'll see here, and this is the one thing that I believe is specific to server, and that is this dropdown, which you guys may or may not have. And if you don't have this dropdown here, what that would indicate to me is that you just have access to a single site on Tableau Server. But what I have here, what I'm showing you here is actually Tableau's multi-tenant structure. And all that means is that Tableau Server can have multiple tenants, in this case sites, on a single server. And so if you're not seeing this, it just means you have access to only a single site. Now, how does this relate to you? Well, I've been in meetings and you'll see someone display a dashboard that's really cool. And you think to yourself, I want to go figure out what that is. Let me go look at that. And you look at the name and you go, let's say you go in the quick search box up here and you type it in exactly as it was presented to you. And yet you can't find anything. It's not that because another option is you type it in and you get access to it and that's great. And everything goes perfectly. That's, I guess, the best case scenario. What oftentimes happens is people will type it in and they'll find it or they won't. If you find it, sometimes you don't have access to it. That's a permissions issue where if you find it in here and you can actually click on it, but then it flags it and says you don't have access to it, you need to reach out to your Tableau Server site administrator or Tableau Server admin and just see if they'll grant you access to that, whatever the piece of content is that you're looking to gain access to. But if you can't find it at all, what it probably means is it's housed on a different site. And then again, the advice I would give you would be very similar. It would be to reach out to your Tableau Server administrator and see if they'll grant you access to that site as well. Because there may be a whole laundry list of reports out there that are very helpful to you. You just didn't know, you just don't have access to that site. So demystifying that has actually been really helpful because again, you can see here, we don't even use at Cisco, we use cloud mostly. And I have access to 3 server sites and we don't even really use this. So there's a lot sitting out there, and especially depending on the size of your company, you may have a lot of different sites. Just continuing down this navigation pane, looking at the home page, you see here that I have favorites selected, recents are being shown here. These are just items that I recently clicked on, and then I have shared with me. You may see some different options here. I believe this is actually controlled, again, by the site server administrator, to like what you would see here. But generally, you'll see favorites in here and generally see recents. What goes on below that is sometimes altered. I really like this new button. In fact, it just saved me on Friday. I was prepping a presentation for a director. And of course, I was making finishing touches, 30 minutes before I had to present, which is probably not always a great idea. But I needed to upload it. I think I had about 10 minutes before the presentation. I had to upload it to Tableau, from Tableau Desktop, in this case, to Tableau Cloud. And I tried 3 times and it kept failing. There was a glitch and I didn't know what it was. And quite frankly, I didn't have time to figure out what it was, right? Or let it resolve itself. So what did I do? Well, luckily I remembered that there was the option here under this new button to upload a workbook directly onto Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server. So I was able to bypass the problem on desktop and go right to cloud. In this case, it'll be server. Again, using these interchangeably here, these terms. So what I'm just really quickly show you what I did. Go to downloads, let's say, just select an item here. And then I just went and uploaded it. I think I replaced it in the project and I gave it the proper name and just overwrote what I had in there. Now, again, the only downside of this option is that it only allows you to upload all sheets. So all the worksheets and all the dashboards can come in. Now, if in some cases, you might only want one dashboard. You don't want all 14 associated worksheets and the 3 other dashboards you didn't want to upload, but they're going to come in anyway. Now, as Brandon talked about, there's a web edit feature on Tableau Cloud and Tableau Server that you can go and you can modify it. It's basically just like a mini Tableau desktop. In fact, I think I've heard Tableau Tim talk about how that its functionality is about like 95% of the way there, as efficient as Tableau desktop. Not 100% yet, but in a pinch, if you want to do some updates or make some quick changes on the fly, it's sometimes better to go through the web edit feature than it is to go all the way back to desktop and re-upload it. Working down here, actually, in fact, just showing you the see all option here, this will just take me directly to my favorites. It's the equivalent of just clicking on favorites here. And if you look here, favorites, everything that I favorited recently, in fact, these 2 things that Brandy just asked me to favorite while she was presenting are already appearing. Now, this is a pretty great way to organize things that you frequently use or that are very important to you, or you can even say that are important to your boss or someone above you. So you can keep an eye on them and house them in one centralized location. One cool thing about favorites is it has a drag and drop feature. So you can move content around. Maybe I just want my KPIs at the top and everything else at the bottom. That's about it for favorites. Honestly, it's pretty straightforward. Recents is also very straightforward in the sense that it just shows you everything that you recently clicked on or recently are working on. And I hate to admit it, but I have a bad habit here where I actually go through the Explore page and I count it. I make 5 clicks to get where I'm going every morning. And what's funny, I work in, and maybe many of you work in Agile, work in 2-week sprints, but most of the things I work on in a 2-week sprint are pretty much right here. Like that first half dozen things are everything I probably need. So if I go away for a long weekend and come back and forget, what my name is and what I was doing, if I click on my recents, it's pretty likely that one of the top 2 or 3 things here are what I probably want to see because it's where we're going to pick up where I left off. So again, be smarter than me. I'm trying to implement this as a habit, but just like any type of habit, good habits and bad habits are just habits. So I have developed a bad habit, which takes me probably an extra minute to get where I'm going. But what I want you to teach you guys is be smarter than me, learn it the right way, learn it in a more efficient way. And again, this might be your favorite place to start like I said, on a Monday morning when you're trying to get your bearings after a long weekend. I'm going to move all the way down to this Explore option here because I think this is a really great way to navigate, especially if you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for content-wise. So this Explore page, what it allows you to do is it allows you to browse content based on everything you have access to on either Tableau Server or Cloud. And that includes content published by other individuals. Now, this is just a demo site. So you'll see here, there's not a lot of, I don't have a lot of things here. I mean, I guess it's a lot for demo site, but compared to like an organization, you could, if it's a small organization, you could probably 10x this. If it's a really large organization, you could 100x this. But so we'll just use our imaginations here. This is much, much bigger, just for the demonstration purposes. But if I click on this and I just want to look at all the views that I have access to on this site. That's one way to go through this. Or maybe I just want to say, I just want to look at all my workbooks. And so that it organizes all my workbooks for me. What I think is really cool about this is I'm going to show you how to utilize both the quick search and then the filtered search. Is that the quick search is basically like it's like a Google search. It's like a search engine except for your site. And it doesn't really take much into consideration other than just searching for everything. So again, I showed you before, I have a few items on here, but not a lot. But imagine that I had, instead of 4 results that came up, I had 40, right? Or maybe 400, depending on the size of your organization, typing something generic like sales. So this wouldn't really be that helpful, right? It's like sometimes when you type in the like a generic search term like sales, it's going to be like drinking water through a fire hose instead of a water fountain. And so in that situation, it might be more helpful to say, you know what, again, if you know the exact title, type it in and it'll yield the exact result. But if you don't, and you're kind of searching generically, it might be more helpful to actually use the filtered search over here, which is a bit more nuanced in the way that it searches. You can see it provides a lot more options. There's drop-down options. There's a type in box here. There's even check boxes down here as well. So if I type in something like, I don't know, call center here, it just narrows everything down on the page that I'm on, in this case, the worksheets that I'm looking at. And then even then, if I go back up to my, I'm not sure if I told you the name of this, but it's got a very, very, very easy to remember name. It's a content type filter because it's allowing you to filter by the type of content you want to look at. So again, the name describes itself. But if I go down here and I look at views, you can see that my views have even been modified and adjusted to just show just the 10 items, not the 36 before that apply to the call center. So I go back up to worksheets. Well, I'll just hang out here for a moment. You can actually see that there's so many items here I have to scroll down. And you don't have to actually memorize all the filters that are being made available here. You just have to notice that there's a lot of them, probably about a dozen. And I'll call out one here. It's tag, which I don't think we'll have time to talk about too much, but
Hey,
if
Pat,
you're a
we're actually at a
blogger-
time check.
Time check? Yeah, if you're a
Yep.
blogger or Instagrammer or use Twitter a lot, then this is very helpful. I think tags are underutilized. But let me go here to projects. So I'm going to look at the projects as my content type. And now you'll notice, again, very quickly, you can see in the filter, my options have been cut in half. And in fact, there's no tag option, the one I just called out. Why is that? Well, Tableau is smart enough to know that it's only giving me options that are actually applicable to what I'm looking at. And I can actually check and see on the ellipsis here that in fact, there is no tag being made available. So it's not even an option for me. Do I have time to go over collections, Brandy?
Sorry.
Probably not. We can send a link though.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, thank you so much.
You guys let me know. You guys flag me whenever you need to call it, and I'll just stop wherever I am.
Or do we
Okay.
need to call it now?
Or do
I
you
think
call
we
it?
might need to call it now because I might want to start the Kahoot.
Okay.
Yeah, just so everybody else can, I don't want to keep the participants in for longer than we need to. Sorry about that. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much, Pat.
Okay, sure thing.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, I will be sharing my screen now to host the Kahoot. So I think that's how we did it before. But the person who usually hosts it is not in the meeting today. I believe they couldn't make it, and it couldn't make it, so I'm hosting it. Some of the answers might be wrong, so I'm not exactly an expert on this, but I will try my best. So let me share my screen and then we'll start right now. Okay, okay, let me share. I'm gonna start. Let me move everybody out. Okay, it's loading. I believe it's a team mode, right? Or which one are we doing? This one, I guess. Okay. It's loading the game pin, guys. Okay, so this is the game pin. Okay, I'm gonna
maybe while we're waiting, first of all, Brandy and Pat, thanks for this presentation. I was really scared how little I know about server. So thank you a lot. I really enjoyed that presentation.
Thanks.
Thanks for having
were
us.
awesome. Yeah.
That was incredible. Thank you so much.
I'm hanging on every word, and I'm watching the chat go, and the chat's going crazy. And so you obviously hit a lot of hot buttons with people. So I mean, you guys were just outstanding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I wish I could have gone to. I had a big finale, but it's leave them wanting more, I guess. So that's always great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool things especially for this level. I really think that this is. I was talking to Brandy. I was like, man, this is the perfect group to be presenting this to because this is exactly who we're written for.
Maybe while we wait for people to join the Kahoot, there is one question, and I was also interested in that one. If you republish your dashboard, are the metrics, alerts, and views created in the previous version, are they deleted, or will they still be there?
They should still be there.
If you're overwriting, so that's why it's going to warn you. If you don't, as long as you don't change the name when you're overwriting something, Brandy was talking about the warning that it's going to flash. And even a pop-up will appear to actually make sure you don't want to overwrite a previous piece of content. As long as you're just overwriting it exactly as it was in the same spot and it's the same URL actually in Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server, then yeah, they should all maintain unless you change something in the data source. But like as long as everything's fine, like if you're just making a few final touches, like I was talking about and I was doing last Friday, and then just uploading it again, you should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can
One-
check that very quickly,
one-
actually, on Tableau Server, Tableau Cloud.
One thing that's kind of important for this group in particular, there are differences between server, cloud, and desktop. And we see a lot of questions come up and said, well, I tried this on desktop and I got everything going and it's working on desktop and I published it and it doesn't work. And you will run into that. Come out to the forum, ask questions, be specific about it. We can help you out with some of that stuff. I kind of think that Laura might be ready here. Are you ready, Laura?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm gonna start now. So if anybody else wants to join, this is the last time. I give like 2 seconds. You don't have to put your whole name in, just even one letter will be fine. Okay, I'm gonna be starting now. I hope this is the right one. Okay, I guess I believe. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're starting. I don't forgot how I did this. Okay, we're doing a quiz. So multi-select. Oh no, wait. Those of you don't know that they're long lost cousins of MR. That's quite true. I appreciate that. Ooh, okay. So we have 2 answers. So anybody who got any of those right, that's true. I'm glad nobody chose cousins of M. I'm glad. So we're gonna go into the next question. So we're gonna see a scoreboard. Yay, Andres. Next question. This will be done really soon. Okay. Oh, I see the answers. Look at that. Amazing. Running low on time.
Why do I have feeling
Everybody else.
Laura has a lot of, the cousin aspect.
I don't know why I want to fight a cousin, but I just put that in. I do not want to fight any of my cousins though, so just so everybody knows. So yeah, let's go to let's see who. Ooh, KK, Heil. We have
KK.
people on the screen. Jeff, we see you. Okay, it's a true or false. So basically it's asking you, is this true? Like you can add measure name or measure value to a sheet by double clicking on the specific one or no? I believe I have this right. Oh yes. So you can definitely, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but you can add measure name or measure value by double clicking on the specific one. We are going to the next one. Let's see. Okay, hi. VP is doing very good. Not sure who that is, but okay. This probably might not make too many sense, but this is a very specific one. I just took a note of it. So if this, I'm not gonna. It's a bit complicated, I believe. Oh my God, so many people got it right. Awesome. Yeah, so I just saw what Klaus was doing and just follow the steps. I'm sure there's more steps, but thank you so much. This is, oh, okay, KK, you're doing good. Alvin, 4 answers in a row. Perfect.
I believe no one else. I think Laura is the only one who's very attentive in this session,
I mean, I had to like run between the chat and this. So I was like, okay, so okay, that Tableau server is hosted on-prem, just so everybody knows. And it's not a SQL server, guys.
It's not a SQL server.
Yeah. Next. Okay, we're gonna see. Okay, AK Justin.
AK.
Oh, it's a tough round. Oh, 22 players lost their streak. Okay, that was a tough question. Okay, the next question will be done soon. I would definitely recommend holding your dashboard like a dragon. So I'm just kidding. Let me see. Okay. Ooh, okay, awesome. This makes it easier for to separate it between groups and teams and stuff like that. So you're not sharing it individually all the time. I'm gonna go to the next question. Let's see who. Okay, 7 players. Okay, AK.
AK still.
We've seen AK and Justin Watts a few times here. 7 players. Awesome. The next question. I think we have one more question after this. No, this is the last question, I believe. This is the last question, guys. This might be the one. Awesome. Yeah, so all of them, the other things are true. I should have made it different, but everything, all the answers are right. So it was all the above. So the only thing I want to say to you guys is join us on the next user group meeting in April, and it will be on Bevy. So you are not going to be checking in on Zoom or having issues with Zoom. I believe like I've had so many questions about people not being able to access the meeting on Zoom because either they cannot register or they have issues with registering, joining, all of that. So I'm hoping that's not going to happen anytime after like moving to Bevy. So I'm looking forward to this very much. So thank you so much, and please join us next time. And let's see the podium. Okay, Nona. Okay, that's it. That's a good. Okay, AK. Ooh, I don't know. Who do you think it's gonna be, guys? Oh wow.
Mike, awesome.
I didn't see Mike. Okay. Oh wow, awesome. Andy and Preston. Mike. Okay, awesome. Mike, please message the host and panelist. I'm not sure who that is, but yeah. Oh yeah, thank you so much. Okay, I see you. Okay, we're good. I am done right now. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, very good.
Awesome,
Very good.
Laura. Thank
Here's
you.
the last slide, but let's move ahead anyway. Okay, first of all, to our speakers today, you guys were great. Thank you so much for doing this. We really enjoyed it, and you can tell by the crowd here, they enjoyed it also. They got a whole lot out of it. Our next meeting is going to be April the 20th, but you're going to hear from us before then, because we're going to check to make sure that you've signed up for Bevy, and we're going to start sending out information. Once again, please sign up for Bevy, because we will lose you once Tableau makes a transition from Splash to Bevy, and that's before our next meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Klaus.
Yeah, thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.